we don't know where to look. We don't do a lot of videos. So today this is our first video. Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
My name's Anthony Taylor. I'm joined by Lorie Corcuera, who is the co-founder of Spark Creations. And
so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat and talk about what you do and HR and people and just life.
Awesome.
So
let's do it.
Do you want to tell people, because you people are here to listen to us, so that's really great. So why don't you tell everyone a bit about you and a bit about your company?
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, first of all, for featuring myself in our story, and I'm always excited to share more about Spark. So when people ask me about Spark, I always have different ways to kind of share what we do, and I don't know if people still get it, because it really is about connecting people and making sure that they feel really good about themselves. And that's kind of how we started the business. But now that we do a lot of the work in corporate, it's really about humanizing work.
Cool. Okay, so let's take a step back. I got a humanizing work part.
Yeah.
Lorie works with people.
Yeah.
And at the heart of every business are people. So tell me about what you do for people, what you do for leaders, and what you really bring to the table when it comes to working with organizations.
Okay, so I'm going to also take a step back. When we first started our company, Spark Creations, we actually started doing personal development retreats. And the reason why we wanted to work with individuals is because we found it's so important for people to really understand who they are so that they can live and lead the most authentic life. And now that's converted and translated into the workplace, because in the workplace, they're all human beings, and we also want to feel more connected and have more purpose with with our careers and our roles and our teams. And earlier before we started, Anthony said, I really want to share, what can people do as leaders within organizations, and we always start with the individual. So we hope that from this session, you're going to actually learn some tips and tools on how to become a better human being and better leader within your organizations.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Bang on. So
is that more clear?
Oh yeah, I think so. We'll get into it. So what I hear from that is not just you have the unit as an organization, but then you have the individual at themselves. Not just as an employee, because they're certainly an employee, your manager, your leader, you're working with people, but how can you lead yourself, how can you lead other people if you can't lead yourself? You can't pour from an empty vessel. So really getting people connected to who they are, and then being able to be authentic so that there's nothing in the way of them connecting with people.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question. So when you feel really good about who you are as a person, right? So you understand, however way you get to that place, right? We do it by getting people to learn more about themselves. But once they understand who they are, what makes them tick, what their strengths are and their values, and then they get to live their life every day from that place, what do you think that gives someone? What does that give you? Because I know you've done a lot of work as well. How do you feel when you feel really good about who you are?
It's my jam.
It's your jam.
I get to be really free.
That's right.
Free to be, free to act, free to be as weird as I want on a podcast or on a video, and just really get to be authentic, and then it allows me to connect with people. Yeah,
and when you feel free, you feel like you can just do anything, right? You feel safe and you feel trusted and that you belong, and that's really what we're at the heart of what we're doing, wanting every single person to feel at work and at home.
Cool. And what I get from out of that is Spark Creation is you have people in your organization, and ultimately everything is being created. So when you are that free self, that's when you are creative. That's when you are creating and you're making stuff happen, because as entrepreneurs or business owners, we're both entrepreneurs, so we're making stuff happen. Every day is a new creation.
That's right.
So,
and we love to even use the word co-creation, because we when we work with our clients or individuals, teams, or organizations, they come to us and say, hey, we've got this challenge, we want to improve communication, we want our leaders to be better leaders, or whatever it might be. And we say, well, we're gonna be here, we're gonna extract understand what your strengths are, but we're gonna do this together. We're really facilitating conversations and connections, but really we're doing this together.
Cool. Okay, so without giving away the secret sauce of what you do, so why do organizations call you first?
Yeah. So anything to do with people, you said, right? So in an organization, it could be someone who's just feeling I need to understand what matters to me most. I want to have a clear understanding of my career. So that might be an individual connecting with us. We always get that as well. Or it might be an HR professional and they're looking for some inspiration and they want to improve their programs within the organization. But we're always looking at it from a culture perspective, not just the transactional HR duties, but like how do we elevate the work experience as a whole, like holistically. Also business owners, business owners from startups to larger organizations, they just want to create the best workplace experience. And so that's how we kind of get connected. But even before we get started, whether they want to do an onboarding program or a leadership program, coaching, whatever it might be, because we really personalize and customize to the needs of the organization, we want to understand first, who are you? Like what are you all about? And that's when we start to define their culture story first.
Okay, cool. I'm going to adjust this a little bit here so we get a little bit more close. Okay, there we go. So talk about culture. Yeah. Talk about workplace. What does that look like as you go into the steps? So we have people watching here and say, okay, I want to improve my culture. I want to create a better workplace. I want my people to be empowered. What are some of the things that they can do to move that forward?
Oh, well, again, it starts from the leader. So if you are someone who is not feeling connected to your role, first things first is, do you even know what your core values are? So core values are what we say are innate within an individual. You're kind of either born with it or you kind of sort of develop and uncover that as you grow older or go through life. But really it determines or defines what matters to you most. If you don't know what matters to you most, then you start to feel unhappy or disengaged, but you don't quite know why, right? Maybe there's a leader or a team or a project or something that just doesn't feel right, and you don't know what it is. Sometimes we just end up ignoring it, settling until we get sick or feel like we want to be away from work, and we don't want that to happen. So first things first is understand what your values are, what matters to you most, and then check in. Do I get to live and lead my values every day in my career or in my life? And once you know that, then you can start to make choices and decisions that are in complete alignment. And again, back to what we talked about. If you're in complete alignment, you feel really grounded, you feel really good about yourself, that's when you get to be, everything. That's when you can just show up and do and create.
Cool. So your values are, I look at values as your DNA. Mm-hmm. It's part of who you are. And then when you have that values alignment, personally, that's when you're free to be, free to act, free to make something happen. And then from the organizational perspective, then there's okay, are people, I guess, comfortable? There's a fast lane, a slow lane, a medium lane. Are they in the right lane? Are they in the right body of water to move them forward? I know it's a weird analogy, but that people are comfortable with what's happening around them. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if a company doesn't have clearly defined values, or they have values on their wall or on their website, but they're, for whatever reason, haven't integrated into their programs, there's some inconsistent behaviors within the organization as they make decisions, or leaders are not really living the values, then that could cause problems. What happens is that it causes friction, it causes conflict, it causes disconnection and disengagement, ultimately disengagement. People just don't feel a sense of why they're there, or that they feel they belong, or that they're contributing. So values from an organizational standpoint need to be clear, and for an individual, so then we can match it. Do they have to be exactly the same? No, but there's got to be some way that they can connect to each other and support each other. And I want to be clear that it's not about finding the perfect fit so that every single person has to look like every single person within the company. Finding values and defining values is about honoring the person, the individual, their unique self. So values make each and every one of us and companies unique. And so we want to be able to create a culture where we can be ourselves. Okay.
So I got it. Okay, so I'm going to look at this from a slightly different perspective, because we are, say, heart-centered people. I know you're definitely a heart, you're about love. You are literally the definition.
You can feel it, right?
Yes, I can feel it. It's vibrating here. Okay. So what if that's not where you come from? What if you're highly analytical, and I'm not saying that you're not loving if you're highly analytical, but on whatever personality indicator test, that's just not where you vibe. You're a data-driven, you're, linear. How do you start to make that happen in your organization? Because you see, you see that your organization is either not working, or you have that sort of disengagement, your people aren't comfortable, maybe people are leaving or quitting or complaining. What can you do? So I guess those are two questions. One, if you're highly analytical, the other one is if you have the symptoms.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer the first question, and then you're going to have to remind me about the second question. I already forgot that. But the first question is, okay, so if you are analytical, maybe you're left brain, you're not all about love, and not everyone has to be love. Like, that's just my personal core value and one of the core values of Spark. But all organizations have a DNA within their culture. They have a collective of people who kind of create that unique culture. And some of them might be like specific in, traditional. I don't want to say traditional because I don't want to label any particular environment. I know in tech there are a lot of more analytical, conceptual type of people. So let's just use tech as an example, because we work with a lot of tech companies. 70% of our companies that we work for are techies. My business partner is actually an engineer, so she's very technical. And so if she wants to look more for the technical side, you just have to find that's why it's so important that companies are defining what their values are. But it doesn't mean that they can't connect to it. Like, I believe analytical people, or people who actually have a passion for analytics or being analytical, they are human beings. There's going to be other values that they have in addition to analytical that complements it. So an analytical person isn't just going to be pure analytical. I'm sure
They're
that,
not robots.
Yeah, if you dig deep down inside, you ask the proper questions, you'll be able to find more about that person. And it will surprise you. I mean, I was in a room full of, I would say 90% software developers, project engineers, and all of those very analytical types. And when I asked the question, what is one of your proudest moments in life? Some of them said, oh, it was, being a father, or my brother, or, my mom, or, playing the guitar. Like, it's a variety. They're all analytical, but they all have other values as well.
Got it. So, like, part of that process of discovering your internal values is also, again, like looking at the people and saying, hey, what do they care about? What's important to them?
Yeah. The more and more that I meet people in the work that we do, I realize every single person is a human being deep down inside. Whether they like it or not, they won't admit it, that they have love, but everyone has love. Everyone has a value of family, connection, individualism. Like, there's so many different things, and so many, like, we're just using like the English dictionary, right? Like, there's so many different languages. Like, we're limited by the vocabulary to describe something that means so much to us. So we don't even sometimes use words. We get people to use a song or to use an image to illustrate what is important to them, because a picture is 1,000 words, right?
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
And then so definitely answered that question, the analytical side, and then, like, I guess, like, moving that forward, I guess you sort of answered that one, like, how do you, like, put that through? So what are like 3 of, like, the best practices? If you're like, okay, this is what I need people to know in order to move forward and start, like, cultivating that culture. Like, one, obviously, hire Lorie and her team, and, like, that's the first step. But no, what are the 3 things that you want people to know to say, okay, I like what you're saying, I want to look at incorporating this for my people. I want to, like, foster culture in my team. What are some of the things that they should take away?
The simplest thing to do today is just to start connecting with your people, like, one by one. Because I know that, especially because I was in an HR role for many years, and some of us can get really busy and stuck into our offices, and we wait for people to come in, and I was very conscious about that in the beginning of kind of middle of my career, because I didn't want to be that kind of HR person that's always stuck in their office. We have to make an effort, not just HR, but every single person, even a team member to a team member, and just start getting curious about each other. Start noticing if someone's having a bad day, or how their weekend was, or what did they learn today? Like, just start connecting with people. We're missing the human connection in the workplace, which is why we're getting busier and busier, is because people realize that with all of the technology and over commitment and lots of, like, every business is doing quite well, and market's really high. Like, it's just, we've never experienced this much abundance, and at the same time we're connecting less with each other. We're just, there's no time, and everyone's trying to do so many different things. So if you could just pause and even make one personal human connection today, and just get curious about them. I don't even have to give you a list of questions. Just be wondrous and say, hey, you know, I haven't seen you in a long time. It's been a week. We've been so busy. Do you have a few minutes? Let's just go for a quick walk, or like even, you know, over at the kitchen, and ask them, so how was your weekend? You know, like, what's new with you? What's going on? Just start connecting with people.
Cool. So make the effort to like take the time to be engaged, connect, like actually talk to somebody face to face.
Face to face.
And be curious about their life. Like get really interested
yeah.
in what they're up to and who they are.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised, because we don't do this often anymore, that if you could just ask one really cool question, like just think of a question that you can ask, and then just listen. Just really listen to what they say. And if they even feel that you're really listening, they'll already feel like you care. And then they'll feel like, hey, you know what? Thanks so much for coming by and saying hello and asking me that question I didn't even think about, though. Or it was really nice to, you know, just share and have a connection and have a good day. And then you kind of just walk away. It takes a few, you know, seconds or maybe a couple minutes. A couple other things to do is, if you're really, really interested, is we always offer like a lot of resources on our website. And there's this thing called the Circle Reflection Card, which we really love. And all it is that, and I'll make sure that you put it on your website so you can have access to it.
Cool.
But basically what it is that it's this form that you can just send out to 3 people. Just 3 people that you really care about, or maybe that you want to receive some authentic feedback and appreciation from. Has all these questions, and they basically fill it out, and then you ask them to actually share the actual comments to you in person. And so there's an opportunity. If I send it to you, it'll be questions like, what do you think? When do you see Lorie smile? Or, you know, what do you think?
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. Or what do you think are my core values? Or what is your dream for me, right? And then we have this little interaction. Maybe you can't answer all the questions, but even if you just answered one of the questions, you prompt someone and encourage someone to actually share and have a human connection with you. So that, again, is just fostering more conversation. And then just get really curious about your own personal core values first, and then share that with someone. What matters to you most in your life, personal and or business career?
Cool. So I'm hearing, like from a leadership standpoint, like anybody can do this. Like you don't have to be the HR person to go and get out of your office.
Well, imagine a leader doing it. Imagine a leader sends out that circle reflection card to all of his or her direct reports, and then makes that to be their next one-on-one kind of activity, and then they sit there practicing to be vulnerable, practicing to receive, and just listen. If you give your team member an opportunity to share what they see in you, like that human connection is going to fuel, like it's going to build your trust instantly, because you're already saying, hey, I want to know what your feedback is on me. It's a great way to even, especially if you're not really used to giving or receiving feedback, this is a really fun way to do it. Or just have that one-on-one with your team member and start connecting, asking them what matters to them most.
Cool. Yeah. And like no judgment. I mean, she's running away from me. She's trying to get out of the frame.
Yeah, no judgment. No, it's just openness. I mean, it's all about building trust and creating a safe space, right?
Cool. Okay, yeah. And then that's what makes everybody connected and work better, because you're a team.
Exactly.
Right? You gotta trust your team members. You gotta build that communication, that connection, and like ultimately, it's like that's your life.
Yes.
Like we spend all of our days at work, working with other people. And so
a third of our life, right? So if you want to, like, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, exactly.
Think about that every day. And then I love when we started this session, before we did the recording, we set an intention, right? So set the intention of how you want to be today. How do I want to be as a mom, a dad, a leader, a team member? What do I want to create? Set a really strong intention, and then you can, at the end of the day, set a gratitude, like what was great that you shared today? How did you show up today? Reflect on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to that point, like one of the things that like I'm committed to and what we created today, so that like why I do what I do at SME Strategy is because having an aligned strategy, having a strategic plan, and building culture into organizations, it affects you as the leaders, it affects the bottom line of the company, but it affects your staff. And it affects your staff, and it affects their families, and it affects like every single person that gets into connection. So when you talk about, hey, like, let's go for coffee. Hey, let's take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to talk. You don't know what that ripple effect is going to do. And so if I make your day and you make somebody else's day, then they're going to go somewhere else, and that's going to spread, and that's going to spread, and that's going to spread. And like, that's what the world needs right now. Like,
And love is what the world needs right now. There's a lot of fear, and it's contagious, right? That is how we were built as human beings.
Yeah, we were born loving. You came out of a human being.
Yes.
And you love the people around you.
So we can't deny it anymore. And I don't know if it was you that I shared this article with from Jack Ma, who is the founder of the Alibaba group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's now saying, we've talked about IQ, right, many years. Then we said, okay, well, we can't just be smart. We actually have to have some emotional intelligence. That's the EQ. He's saying what's even more important than the IQ and the EQ is the LQ, which is the love quotient, right? It's a little bit different than emotional intelligence, right? So you've got your smarts. You're a little bit more self-aware how to manage yourself and to manage relationships. But then the love quotient is taking it a step further. What am I doing to make the first effort, to trust more, to love more, to care more? Am I being collaborative? Am I doing the best I can to create the best outcome? Well, one of the things you asked me that you really wanted to share is, what are the trends? And I don't know if that's a question that you want to talk about.
Actually, that was exactly what I wanted to ask.
I
was trying to find a segue for it.
Well, the love quotient is the segue.
Okay, perfect.
Right? So it actually really connects to where we believe companies will want to focus on or need to focus on, right? So when I described what we did earlier, we were talking about humanizing work. Mm-hmm. What does that really mean, to humanize work or humanizing the workplace? So we did a lot of research earlier on, probably about a couple of years ago, with talking with a lot of HR folks and business leaders, and we wanted to ask them, what are the skills that you currently have that you feel that you're really strong in, and if you could improve something about your skill set, what would that be? And also, what skills do your leaders need to elevate? And across the board, what people are looking for, HR, business leaders in general, and just team members, is the human skills. We are starving for human connection, right? So when Anthony proposed this question to me before the session, I was really thinking about it. The trend that we believe is coming is getting people to connect better on a human level. Okay, so there's a lot of EQ, emotional intelligence training that's happening, coaching, which is a different kind of, a lot of people say they coach, but it's really advising. Like, to have a true definition of coach, when you're coaching when 80% of the time the person that you're coaching is speaking and you're only asking questions 20% of the time. So check in on that when you're talking to people, who's talking more. Mm-hmm. If you're coaching, you're talking less because the other individual is really feeling empowered and coming up with their own solution. And then there's empathy and compassion. LinkedIn is doing a lot of leadership work around compassionate leadership. So all of that is where we feel the future is going, is about elevating the life experience through human skills.
Cool. And then from a purely business standpoint, we look at what are the competitive advantages? How can you, beat your competition and take your company to the whole new level? And we have Lululemon here as a big company that grew, and they built their organization on culture. Google built their organization on culture. So, what do you see? And I think we alluded to it before, but it's if you start taking that EQ, the LQ, and bringing it into your organization, what will be the output? What is what's the organization going to look like after that?
Right. Well, there's going to be different steps on how to get to it, first of all. So, when we talk about culture, it's not a copy and paste, one size fits all. So we have to understand what's important to each organization, because each organization is going to be different. So when we talk about culture, we actually refer to 6 elements of culture, right?
Right.
So those 6 elements actually came from Tony Robbins' Human Needs. Are you familiar with Tony Robbins' Human Needs?
Enlighten me again.
Yeah. So
6 things.
Yeah. So 6 things, and hopefully I remember it too. Is Tony Robbins says for any individual or human being to be experience fulfillment in life. So it's not just happiness. It's I feel like I'm fulfilled. I've contributed. I feel more than happy. Right? Is variety. Right?
Okay, variety.
And then certainty.
Okay. And
then contribution, love, connection, growth and learning, and contribution, or significance. So that's 6.
Okay.
So what we've done is we've translated that into 6 elements, because there's human beings as well in an organization. So what if we knew exactly what the leaders and the people in the organization, what was important to them as it relates to human needs, translated it into culture needs. So that means, do they have a strong culture story? Do they have a strong leadership team that are aligned, right? Is there human connection where people feel like they belong and they're valued and recognized? Is there learning opportunities within the organization? Is creativity encouraged so that there's no such thing as failure, and you're always innovating and coming up with solutions and new ideas to better the company? And lastly, is there a strong ecosystem that is adaptive to the changes that are happening, right? So when we say ecosystems, we're not bombarded or held back from all these different processes that don't make sense, right? We're checking in that the process is actually supporting our business to grow and to change when we need to change, right? So that's has to be simple, where people get it. A process is nothing if people don't understand why you have it, and what and how it's actually going to support the business. So with those 6 elements, once we understand what those 6 elements are in an organization, then we can better and what the priority is, then we can better then help that organization, or the organization can then focus on what's important to the organization, and then you can create programs that actually support those.
Absolutely, and it sounds like a systemized process within the organization. And ultimately goes back to the very first thing that we said, is that you have those things in place, and you have human beings, employees, people that are self-actualized, that are fulfilling their best selves, and then they're bringing that to work. They're bringing that to everything they do, and they're unleashed. They're really ready to give it their all because their lives are complete. They are whole, and they can bring everything to the workplace.
Yeah, it's again, when we talked about individuals and getting them to understand what their values and purpose are so they can live a most authentic life, it's the same thing with organizations. Mm-hmm. Right? If your company doesn't understand what's important to every single person in the company, and then to be working towards that, which is different, it's not about industry. We're finding that not every single tech company is similar to every other single tech company, or mining or banking or whatever. It's actually we have to ask the question and really create a unique culture profile for every organization, and then from that place create the best vision to support it and grow it.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's awesome. Cool. Okay, so how can people get a hold of you?
How can people get a hold of me? They can go to our website at sparkcreationsinc.com, or just Google, and you'll find something that links back to us, because we post a lot of information. One of the things that I'm addicted to is waking up at 5 in the morning and reading a lot. So if you link in with me, you'll then start to see all my posts, and you can always turn it off if it's too much, but at least if you're trying to find information, you could just search Lorie, and all the information is. I'm all about sharing and open source, and giving you guys the tools so that you can do it yourself, because we're not going to be able to reach all 7 billion people in the world. So if we can make it easy for you to just start doing it, then we can all start elevating the life experience at work and at home together.
I love that. So I connect with Lorie on LinkedIn. Check her out, sparkcreationsinc.com, and then I'll put up the link to the Circle Reflection card.
Awesome.
On here. Lorie, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye guys. Have a great day.